Delmarva Today with Don Rush.
Maryland Governor Wes Moore delivers his State of the State address. We'll have some analysis from MPT's Jeff Salkin. Selbyville is going to get its first tax hike in years. Salisbury continues to struggle with a policy for a history of lynching. And we'll take a look at the latest developments and efforts to construct offshore wind turbines. Welcome to Delmarva Today. This is Don Rush. In his State of the State address, Governor Wes Moore declared that the state of Maryland is strong. But making progress ahead, he says, will depend upon the partnership with lawmakers and others.
Because for too long, we have watched how the executive would pick fights with the legislature in the media instead of showing real leadership and engagement in the State House. Hear, hear. So we've decided. We're going to move differently. And our state is going to be better because of it.
With the governor delivering his State of the State address, we turn to Jeff Salkin. He's the news anchor for Maryland Public Television. Welcome to the program.
Glad to be with you. Thanks for having me.
So one of the things I want to jump right in is he emphasized this idea about partnership with the state legislators, something that obviously we've seen some animosity in the past, or at least conflict with the previous Republican governor. And the thing that really struck me is that he reached out to individual state legislatures to give them recognition, many of them for that matter. What was your sense about this idea about turning over a new leaf?
Well, it's really a smart thing to do. Of course, the legislature's been controlled by Democrats for 100 years or more, and the last 8 years they had a Republican upstairs in the governor's office, and Larry Hogan, who wasn't able to get a lot of cooperation on his agenda from the legislature. So in a State of the State speech or other venues, he would kind of talk past them, knowing that he was going to be able to exercise the powers of his office, but he wasn't going to get a lot of support from the legislature. So lawmakers are delighted, Democratic lawmakers are delighted to have a Democrat in the governor's office. And, we've had an extended honeymoon, I would say. The only real glitch, there haven't been any big controversies. I think that's why he, has a 60% approval rating in the last poll I saw. The closest thing to a dust-up with the legislature, I think, was the Orioles lease at the end of last year when the governor, after a false start, finally had a deal with John Angelos that involved some development rights near the stadium. And legislative leaders objected, and the governor pulled the deal and went back and negotiated a new version with Angelos without those sweeteners. And it felt to me at the time like that was the first sign that the honeymoon may not be forever.
He does seem to, in his delivery, to have this sort of sunniness to him. He smiles a great deal. There's a certain charisma to him, I think.
Absolutely. He has star power. If you could bottle that, I would take a little dose of it. I think most of us would be thrilled to have a small fraction of the charisma that he is blessed with. He's able to win friends and influence people. You think back to the Democratic primary for governor, he was up against a large number of candidates, but there were two established, well-funded, veteran Maryland politicos in the race, in Peter Franchot and Tom Perez. And Wes Moore had never run for anything and managed to win that race, not by a lot, but by 2 percentage points, which is all it takes. He also had the advantage of just tremendous connections based on his time in New York running the Robin Hood Foundation, based on his time at the White House as White House Fellow, his time in the service. There was a tremendous Rolodex of people that he could turn to for fundraising, and he was able to be competitive with people who had been at that for a long time. So I think the learning curve when your first office is governor of Maryland is going to take a little while. When he staffed up the administration, there were a lot of outsiders. And so I think there were a lot of people sort of learning the ropes. His close advisor, his wife, Dawn Moore, has far more experience than most anyone in the administration, having worked for Anthony Brown in the past. So she may have been the secret weapon there.
Turning to the issues, one of the things that really sort of stood out to me was this idea about the deficit. There's this looming structural deficit that perhaps maybe not this year, but next year. I know the Republican response hit at this. He didn't seem to say a lot about what the future holds in terms of trying to make that all happen. And obviously, some of the criticism has been, well, he's been just simply transferring funds, and that's how he's sort of gotten through the year. Is there any sense about how he might approach this? I know he's said that he doesn't want any new taxes.
Yeah, he has said that. He has said the bar is very high to tax increases this year. And I think there's a consensus with the legislative leaders that they're not doing anything major this year. I expect that that'll change next year, that there'll be much more debate. Because if you think about the 4-year term of legislators, the first session is a little bit of getting organized, figuring out where the votes are on certain issues. The second and third years, there's a little bit more heavy lifting. And then in the fourth year, they're all running for re-election again. So there's far less willingness to take a vote on a broad tax increase. So it doesn't look like it'll be this year. It won't be year 4. It may be year 3. And two other points to make. One is that dipping into the rainy day fund is a little bit controversial this year because you look at the economic indicators, it's clearly not raining out there. I mean, the state's unemployment rate is under 2%, which is unprecedented in the history of Maryland economic data. People are still feeling economic pressures because inflation has lingered, but a lot of people have jobs, and that means a lot of people are paying taxes. And then, the other point to mention with the state budget is that the legislature committed to spending a lot of money on the Kerwin Blueprint plan for K through 12 education. That was enacted over the Hogan veto, and it's required a bunch of funding to this point, but nothing like what is going to happen in the next few years when it starts being multiple billions of dollars a year that just isn't there. So the legislature, the Democrats in charge are either going to have to renege on their promises to the teachers union and other constituencies, or they're going to have to find some revenue.
Because I know here in the Eastern Shore in particular, a lot of the local officials are saying that it's just too much, that they can't cough up with their own part of it, and they're wondering where the money is going to come from in terms of the state funding. I mean, it does seem as if there's going to be a real push, certainly from the local counties, and certainly here, to roll back some of that. I mean, have we seen that, for instance, in, say, Baltimore or any of the other areas? I know it's true here in the rural areas.
I haven't, taken a survey of everybody, but I think every corner of the state there are county officials who are worried about that. It's, it's an unfunded mandate, and the political pressure is going to grow. I mean, you think back to the last big education funding boost, the Thornton plan, maybe 15 years ago. There was another one about 15 years before that, but the thing with Thornton was that the legislature adopted it with no funding mechanism. And that's what led to the election of a Republican governor at the time, that they passed it without funding, and then in the next term raised taxes, and that opened the door for the Republicans. So will history repeat itself? I think Democrats are all too familiar with what happens to them in gubernatorial elections after a tax increase.
The other thing, by the way, and it almost got a lot of applause, was the idea about there's a racial wealth gap, and then he went on to say that there's no room for hate, and it does seem as if he really sort of tried to address that racial issue within the state.
It's close to his heart. There's no question about that. It's the thing that defines him. The no person left behind idea, and there are large communities, certainly parts of the Eastern Shore as well as parts of West Baltimore, where a child born in that environment has far less of a chance in life, and it's certainly not that child's fault, and he wants to do more to help. He has a proposal in this session. I think it's called the Enough Act, which would be what they bill as a first-in-the-nation anti-poverty effort to work with community groups. Going back to Lyndon Johnson, we've tried all sorts of things to and poverty with kind of mixed results. So sure hope he or his team are able to find the secret sauce, the secret formula to help those pockets of the state that are in fact left behind.
And in the Republican response, basically what I heard was issues about crime, obviously the deficit, and they wanted to lower taxes. I mean, it seemed to be fairly formulaic in its response. I don't know how it fit in with what the governor was saying. What did you make of that response?
I think the Republican Party, it's a minority. It's a very small minority, so they don't have the power on their own to really do anything. I mean, they don't have the numbers to filibuster. In the Hogan era, they didn't have the numbers to uphold any of his vetoes. So they, the way they get things done for their constituents, for their counties, is to work closely with the power structure in the legislature. There's a lot of deference to county delegations, so they can be effective, and they know they're not going to be effective on the big issues. But maybe at the edges of it, they can have some influence. So I think, in Senator Hershey, who is the minority leader in the Senate, you have somebody who is like Wes Moore, I suppose, friendly to everybody, open to talking, not a bomb thrower. And that's the approach that, for the most part, has been most successful for the Republicans in the State House.
Finally, one of the other things that struck me is sitting here on the Eastern Shore is I didn't really hear a lot for the Eastern Shore. I didn't hear about necessarily the dealing with the blueprint, say, in terms of where we are. I didn't hear about the Bay a lot. I didn't hear about, for instance, the University of Maryland Eastern Shore getting its chunk of money to repair some of the wrongs of the past. I mean, it does seem as if they were broad themes, and some of them certainly were pointed towards Baltimore, but I didn't really hear a lot when it came directly to the Eastern Shore.
Come to think of it, I don't recall hearing much about the environment in the speech. I think there was a shout out to a mayor in Western Maryland, Lonaconing maybe, and I think the governor seems to really enjoy the excursions that he takes, where other governors have done this, where you take the whole cabinet and you have a meeting on location somewhere on the shore. I think he's done the shore, come to think of it, but I can't pinpoint a location. But you focus for a day on the issues of the region, and I think that'll continue, especially after the legislature adjourns in April.
We've been speaking with Jeff Salkin. He's the news anchor for Maryland Public Television. Appreciate you joining us.
Great pleasure. Thank you.
You're listening to Delmarva Today. This is Don Rush.
Delmarva Today with Don Rush.
We now turn to Susan Canfor, reporter for Coastal Point. Welcome to the program.
Thank you, Don.
So I understand that turning to Selbyville, there's a tax increase perhaps in the offing?
Yes, Don. Property owners in Selbyville are paying an additional 30 cents on property tax effective immediately. The new tax rate is $2.15 per $100 of assessed value. This past Monday night, the Selbyville Council passed the FY25 $9.7 million budget, and that budget included a tax hike that residents had escaped for many years. The former mayor and town council members did not want Little Selbyville to have a tax increase, and really they prided themselves on keeping it low at $1.85 per $100 of assessed value. But as the current mayor, Rick Duncan, said during the meeting, Selbyville is not a town of 500 people anymore, but now has a population of about 5,000 and is continuing to grow, with new developments being approved and requests to annex more land into town limits on the town council agendas all the time. Town Administrator Stacy Long explained why the tax increase is needed. She said although it's a very modest tax increase, the town needs funds for many expenses. These include hiring more police officers and hiring a new administrative assistant. Many departments are understaffed, and she told the mayor and town council, Mayor Duncan, who, by the way, is retiring from Delaware Rural Water on March 1st, and the audience, that it's unfortunate the taxes weren't increased sooner. She said she told the current council and several new members with Duncan as mayor, the new mayors on the council and with Duncan as mayor, there's now a new vision for growth. The council also approved several fee increases that the town administrator recommended. They include raising the zoning fee from $200 to $500, the sign permit fee from $75 to $200, and the water and sewer permits from $15 to $40. Demolishing a home now is going to be a $250 fee instead of a $75 fee. And the town administrator also proposed a $500 increase in impact fees, raising that from $3,500 to $4,000. All these fees were approved by the town council and are in effect immediately. There was some grumbling from the audience, from the people in the audience, but the council members all said the economy is rocky and there's nothing they can do but raise these fees. So they went into effect immediately as of Monday night.
Was there any real pushback against these, or has there been local business community, for example, or even property owners?
There were a few property owners in the audience who said things like, can we expect this every year? And is this coming every year because of all the new expenses and the growth? And the town administrator said, really, we don't know yet. We have to wait and see what happens in years to come.
And why is it that they've not raised taxes in so long?
It seems to me it's because they kind of prided themselves on having a low tax rate. And, the former mayor and council members were there for many, many years. They had a lot of people saying, we don't want taxes to increase. And they said, as long as we're on this council, you're not going to see taxes increase. But now they're in a situation where financially they really have no choice.
Is this a product really sort of a changing of the guard from some of the older people? Is that a generational thing?
It's a combination. It's a changing of the guard, but it's also just the need for more people, a bigger staff to run the town. The police department is outgrowing its little police department. There was a new public works building built within the past year. The town's just growing like crazy, and they really have to keep up with it.
What is it like then to say drive through Selbyville now as opposed to say maybe 10 years ago?
It doesn't look a lot different. Not downtown. It doesn't look like there's a new food truck downtown that everybody's kind of raving about, and there are plans, to build this and build that. But where the growth is really closer to the beach, where all the new developments are, closer to I guess that's Route 54. There's a Harris Teeter there, and there are a lot of developments right around that Harris Teeter. A lot of new, developments that have 200 homes here, 500 homes there. That's where you're seeing the growth. In downtown Selbyville, it pretty much looks just like the quaint little town that it always has been. I think we'll see some growth. There's an economic development committee that is formed now, and they're trying to bring new businesses. So I think we'll see more growth as the years go by.
So also we got another Delmarva town, Del Mar in Delaware, has voted to restrict recreational marijuana businesses.
Yes, in Del Mar, Delaware, the council
That's right.
voted to pass an ordinance restricting recreational marijuana. The town council in Del Mar voted Monday night to pass that ordinance restricting recreational marijuana businesses in town by a 4-0 to 1 vote, with one council member abstaining. The town banned dispensaries, manufacturing facilities, and the sale in corporate limits. The vote only impacts the Delaware side of the town. And this is nothing new, Don. In fact, it's a trend in small towns. In Selbyville, Ocean View, Millville, and Millsboro, at least, town councils have all passed ordinances prohibiting testing facilities, cultivation, retail stores, and any commercial establishment, such as marijuana lounges or cafes, that allow patrons to consume, smoke, or partake in marijuana products within the jurisdiction limits of these towns. Selbyville Councilman Monroe Hudson was the chairman of the town's Marijuana Advisory Committee, and he said a few weeks ago that he and committee members overwhelmingly said, we want to prohibit the sale in town limits. He said he talked to Selbyville Police Chief Brian Wilson, who agreed it should be prohibited in Selbyville, and his reason was for the sake of public traffic and highway safety. The Delaware League of Local Governments does not support allowing marijuana, also because of concerns about public safety, and town residents in Selbyville oppose the sale and use. In nearby Ocean View, Mayor John Reddington said he heard from residents who don't want marijuana in town because they don't want to smell it, and many are convinced it's a gateway drug. In Millsboro, the town council, by unanimous vote, directed their town solicitor to draft an ordinance banning, again, the cultivation, sale, and production of all cannabis products. And it's the same in Millville. Millsboro Councilman Marty Presley said licenses for marijuana-related businesses will start being approved by the state next month. This past April, Delaware lawmakers passed House bills legalizing the possession of up to 1 ounce of recreational marijuana, making it legal to buy starting in early 2025. But towns were given the options to prohibit it. There are no such provisions for areas in Sussex County that are not incorporated, meaning if you're in the county and not within any town limits, there are no provisions to stop it. But the county administrator in Sussex is working to get that changed.
Now, can the county, I take it the county can't ban it. I mean,
Not yet.
Right.
They're working to ban it.
So under Delaware law, a county could actually ban it because it's different, and certainly in Maryland. Or do we know yet?
Under federal law?
No, in Maryland, the counties can't ban this stuff.
Right, same in Delaware.
Same in Delaware.
The counties
Okay.
can't ban it yet, but they're working to try to get a provision. So if you're not if you are in an unincorporated area, you can still ban it. Right now, though, some of these places can open, and sometimes where they want to open is just a few feet away from the city line into the county. So if they want to open badly enough, that's where they're looking.
And they'd have to go to the state legislature to get that.
Yes,
that
to go within unincorporated areas. Yes, and they are planning to do that.
So the other thing, by the way, I saw was Delaware, where this is the flu season, saw something like 6 flu-related deaths since October 1st. What do we know about what's going on with that?
It is flu season, it's cold season, it's RSV season, and it's COVID season, all 4 together. We learned this week that 6 Delaware residents have died from the flu this season from the beginning of October through January 20th. That information is from the Delaware Division of Public Health. All of them were 55 years old or older. They were from Sussex, Kent, and Newcastle counties. Every year, doctors tell us how important that flu shot is, and in this case, it certainly is true because of the 6 who died, only 1 had been vaccinated. Delaware state officials released statistics that show there were about 3,600 cases of the flu this season. 110 patients ended up in the hospital. Despite the repeated reminders about getting a flu shot, and I hate to get it too, state officials reported that only 1 in 3 Delaware residents got the shot, and most of them are 65 or older. The state also reported the flu, COVID-19, and RSV, which is the abbreviation for respiratory syncytial virus, has been increasing. So as we have told you, masks are again being required at BB Healthcare and in Tidal Health in Salisbury, as well as in many doctors' offices.
So what does the future look? I mean, are they encouraged that they can get more people to get vaccinated, or is this just, I mean, because there also seems to be a decline, say, for instance, from even the pre-pandemic.
They're certainly asking, and possibly one of the reasons is because people are so concerned about the COVID shot that they're not thinking about the flu shot. The doctors that I've talked to, and I talked to a very nice doctor at BB a couple weeks ago for an article that I wrote for Coastal Point, and he said, get the flu shot and COVID at the same time. Just get it over with, because they don't protect for each other. The COVID shot doesn't protect the flu shot doesn't protect against COVID. So he said the best thing to do is get them both. Get a sore arm, maybe have a couple days of a low-grade fever, get it over with, and get them both and protect yourself.
Meanwhile, back here in Salisbury, downtown, we see this sort of a small business alliance. This is going to hold an event that's separate from a Third Friday. If its emphasis is going to be on businesses, what do we know about this new group?
It's a new event called the Spring Street Market, and it's being planned by several downtown businesses. They're members of the Downtown Salisbury Business Alliance. The first street market is scheduled for Saturday, March 23rd, from noon until 5 p.m. It's free and open to the public. There will be live music, activities for adults, activities for children, shopping, and restaurants open for lunch and snacking, including my favorite, lots of ice cream. On its Facebook page, the Downtown Salisbury Business Alliance is described as a new force for supporting local downtown businesses. The idea is to put the focus on those downtown businesses instead of on the arts, as Salisbury's Third Friday does. Among the businesses are Nicole Blackwater's and Nicole Rogers' businesses. They own, respectively, the Blackwater Apothecary and Two Scoops ice cream shop. They said they want to lure repeat customers and showcase their businesses by bringing more people downtown. And they're very excited about this market that's going to be on March 23rd.
I mean, does that seem as if there's a sort of a continuing effort to sort of revitalize? Obviously, we have a lot of redevelopment that's going on at downtown as it is with the construction. We had Third Friday, which began a number of years back, and now we have this. It sounds like we're getting some movement even on the business level.
Even on the business level, that's right. These ladies and other businesses, I think they have like 12 businesses involved in this, are very eager to get people to come downtown, not just to enjoy the arts and to walk around and look in the windows, but to go inside and shop and try the foods and try what's on the menus and buy what's in their shop. So it's an effort to increase business. They've had kind of a slow winter from what I understand, and they want to increase the business in the spring. They're all excited about this, and it sounds like a really nice event.
Also, speaking of events, Night to Shine, prom, special.
Very special. In today's world, journalists have to write such bad news stories, but this one is absolutely heartwarming. This Friday night at the Ocean View Church of Christ, more than 100 developmentally disabled youth and adults, 14 years old and older, are going to the prom. It's the annual Night to Shine, and that's an event that was started by the Christian football player Tim Tebow several years ago, and it's coming to Ocean View again this year. I think they've done it 5 or 6 years. I talked to the church pastor and the chief of police, Chief Kenneth McLaughlin, in Ocean View, and they are both so excited about this annual event. It's going to start a little before 6 on Friday night, and before that, the public is asked to come to the parking lot at the church and crowd around these young people and older people who are developmentally disabled and so happy to be at the prom, to stand outside the church and to act as what they're calling paparazzi, cheering, taking photographs, holding up signs that say, "Congratulations, kings and queens." As the guests, all of them will be crowned prom king and prom queen, go into the church. When they get there, they can have their hair done, they can have their makeup done before dinner and dancing. They can get their shoes shined, go into a big game room, or take a ride in a limousine. And everything they do the entire evening, they will be accompanied by a volunteer known as their buddy. And this buddy will not leave their side, but will have dinner with them, dance with them, talk to them, play games with them. It's such a heartwarming celebration. The pastor, the Reverend Ethan McGee, told me he's been in the ministry 25 years, and this is still his favorite event. While the kings and queens are enjoying the prom, their parents or caretakers are also invited. They will be treated to dinner in a separate area, have a little entertainment, and then they'll be able to watch a live stream of these young kings and queens dancing and having a good time. So it's going to be a delightful evening. Even the Ocean View police come. They interact with the young kings and queens. They dance with them. They interact with them. And I think Chief McLaughlin summed it up best when he called Night to Shine very cool. We certainly send our good wishes to the prom kings and queens as they enjoy this prom and as they shine.
Have you been to this at all? Or
yes, I have many years.
And what was it like that? What is it like there?
The first year I covered it, there was because it was COVID, there was a parade from the elementary school a few blocks away to the church. And everybody, was in that parade. They were holding up signs on the streets. They were clapping, and there were balloons and music, and it was such a nice event. Now that COVID has passed, we hope, they just start at the church, and there's music, there are spotlights, and people just shouting and screaming and cheering them on. It's a very nice event. I'll be there again this year, taking pictures and writing an article for Coastal Point. It's so heartwarming. The little kings and queens, some of them are older, most of them are in their young teen years. They are just so excited. They look so pretty. They're in their tuxedos and in their evening gowns, and their hair's all done. The men are so excited. The parents are there with them. It's just a great evening. It's such an uplifting event.
I mean, I can imagine, particularly for them, and we take those things sort of for granted when we were growing up, but this was really special to be there and to have that experience for these.
It is for them. Many of them, because they are developmentally disabled, many of them don't get to go to the traditional proms. So this is just for them. And it really makes an impact on them. And on the community, everybody who goes says they had more fun than the kings and queens did. They were so happy to be there. It's so uplifting. And everybody is so happy. And the men get a little crown, the girls get a tiara, and everybody gets this bag of goodies and have a really nice dinner and dancing. And I get all caught up in it to walk around and talk to everybody and look for ice cream, of course, like I always do. But it's a very nice event. I always enjoy it. I can't wait to go this Friday.
Well, we've been speaking with Susan Canfor. She's a reporter for Coastal Point. Appreciate you stopping by and chatting with us.
My pleasure, as always.
You're listening to Delmarva Today. This is Don Rush.
Delmarva Today with Don Rush.
Late last year, the Salisbury City Council began moving towards issuing an apology for the 1931 lynching of Matthew Williams and others, but the issue appears to be stalled and frustration has been building. You're listening to Delmarva Today. This is Don Rush. City Council President Deshaun Doughty is reportedly to have allowed the mayor to draft a resolution, and Mayor Brad Taylor's office has said that it has sent a draft to the Truth, Racial Unity, Transformation, and Healing Advisory Committee. But now Council members Michelle Gregory and April Jackson are looking toward the council taking its own steps toward an apology. In our studio this afternoon is Monica Brooks. She's president of the Wicomico County branch of the NAACP. Welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
So where are we with this? I thought that we'd be moving ahead, and now we've got this draft, I guess, from the mayor's office. Where are we with this?
Listen, your guess is as good as mine. Quite frankly, this is something that was supposed to be addressed, that we thought would have been closed out last year. The process started about a year ago, with all of this. And as you know, the former mayor refused to do the apology. The council said, we'll do it. Yay, hurrah. And there were stalls on that. Then we presented a resolution saying, okay, well, if this is taking so long, how about here you go. We'll give you a template from which to work on. That was received initially by the city council. They were all in favor. And then there were stalls. Then we got our new leadership who said, yeah, let's do it. Mayor Taylor said, yeah, let's do it. And then somehow it became a mayor mix with council piece. And so we thought we were moving forward. They didn't want to work with our resolution. They decided to adopt Annapolis resolution, which was just an idea that we presented, right? So there were people that said, why should you be giving the council, telling them what to say? We didn't want to, but we just thought it would be a kick in the behind to get something moving. And that's exactly what happened. So now, they didn't want to use that. So they said, we'll do our own. And we compromised on a foundation of this one in Annapolis. The Annapolis one is pretty watered down. It's not as watered down as others. But we thought that would be a good jumping off point. And basically, it's just it stayed pretty watered down. So they gave it to us and we were like, here's our changes. Let us know. 3 weeks later, we never heard a word. Then Councilman President Doty said, we're going to put this on the schedule to do another work session. And then that was for February 5th. After that, it became, the council is no longer doing it. The mayor said he's going to do it. It's going to go on the February 19th schedule. Well, I had to hear on the news that it is being sent to the Truth Committee for them to work on at their next meeting on the 21st. So I don't know if you know anything about calendars, Don, but the 19th comes before the 21st.
The assumption is that it's not going to show up on the 19th.
Not going to show up on the 19th. The family is not happy. Of course, there are issues there. But at this point, it's really it's not even the slow wheels of justice. It's the ridiculous wheels of justice. That's something that should not be so, just so massive. How hard is it? When the mayor came in and said, hey, you know what, let's do this. So we're thinking this train is moving, because we have better things to do. They have better things to do. It's ridiculous to continue to focus on, funds or time being spent on something that can be handled quickly. But if this is how things get handled, good Lord, what are we going to do when there's, big issues of infrastructure and policing, and how long is it going to take to get anything done?
Do we know why the council president decided to hand this over to the mayor? I mean, the explanation I saw on the news was that they wanted the mayor's office to spearhead this. Any sense about what happened there?
So, of course, the mayor is the head of the city. And that's why we went to the head of the city initially, to Jack Keith. Hey, Jack, you're the head of the city. Spearhead the sucker. Let's go. And so that way it's comprehensive, right? You have the head, which encompasses all of it. And that didn't happen. So ideally, yes. But everyone's known that. The council presented themselves to us, saying, listen, we know that you're not getting any traction with the mayor. We'll do it. Just so we can get this done. It still represents the city. And we said, great. So it's never been a question of if it should come from the top. It's always been that assessment. However, for it to be now kicked back with as if this is a new revelation is ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. Of course, it was always supposed to be in that space. They were working on it together. And, somehow the engine has been detached from the rest of the rocket and it's just back and forth. He said, she said. There are members on the council who were like, wait, what? Why are we not doing this anymore? We thought we were good. And at the expense of, the direct descendants at the expense of, stakeholders, this has just become tiresome.
Well, in terms, by the way, of folks like Michelle Gregory, it sounds as if they're indicating that the council will either be taking this up or perhaps there's a division on the council. I don't know. But it sounds like they're determined, along with April Jackson, to just move ahead. Is that the sense you get, that they may just go ahead and move ahead with this in spite of the mayor? Or
what I'd like is to just see leadership. Make a decision, follow through with the decision, and let's go. Or we have no intentions of continually being entangled with the city politics on one issue. There are multiple issues that, we'd like to address. But, we feel bad. We're not going to leave these families hanging. We're not going to leave the community at large hanging. And all the people that are saying, oh, this is a great idea. Oh, wonderful. We're so happy that you're doing that. We get those calls. I get stopped in the Walmart with these kind of comments. So it's certainly something that is desired. But somebody needs to say, listen, yeah, we're doing it. Let's hammer this sucker out and let's go. Let's get it done, as opposed to this back and forth and back and forth. So now the Truth Committee is going to probably present the same thing that was already presented. And it's not in our hands. But what I will say is I and my colleagues at the Comical Truth and Reconciliation are tired of these false schedules and these, being told one thing and then it keeps changing. It's absolutely ridiculous. Make up your mind what you're doing and do it.
is there a difference then between, I guess, what they're talking about in terms of this, you used to talk about the watered down thing, draft. How does that differ from what, for instance, you guys wanted to see?
So, of course, a resolution is something that has to be actionable, right? That's the difference between a proclamation. That was part of the discussion, too, throughout the year. Oh, let's make it a proclamation, happy-go-lucky. Well, proclamation can be like, we proclaim this day to be Happy Cheese Day. It's just proclaiming something, but it does not bring action to it. And while the watered down version, which did include the names of the former fire chief, police chief, those things which were good, it's missing the significant part of direct engagement. So basically, as a result, this is what the city is going to do going forward. This is how we're going to handle things. This is how we will never let something like this happen again. This is the way that we're going to sew and tie into the Black community. Those things. There's no substance to it. They also took major issue with it being called a racial terror lynching. Now, lynchings, that universal term which was known for so long, was upgraded because the significance of a lynching had nothing to do with an isolated incident to attack this one individual. It was meant to send a message to the community at large. You see this person hanging over here, you see this person being murdered here, we're letting you know you can be next. So it sent fear, shockwaves throughout the Black community that basically said, don't you stick your neck out, don't you say a word, don't you say anything, or else. That's the terror lynching. So it was a racial terror lynching. It was meant to send a message, and it did. It did. It was very effective, as were the others. So they didn't want to put racial terror lynching, and then that's something that we just thought was an absolutely necessary, um, to make that clear and that understanding. So that's something else that they were, it's been placed in this space of legal. Well, we have to talk to legal. We have to see if legal is in agreement with this. Well, what's legal afraid of? We didn't, we're not saying whatever things that are going to send you down some legal rabbit hole.
And by the way, now in terms, by the way, of this resolution that watering down in terms of the what they're going to do. So how does that differ from what you wanted them to say? I mean, you're talking about, well, they're promising to do something, but
yeah,
there's no
because
substance
that's
to
what
it.
a resolution is.
Right.
So it's basically, well, hey, City of Salisbury, this is your city. You're in charge of it. What is it that you are going to do? And you want as a city,
and you want something specific in there, so what they're, as opposed to saying generally we're going to do something.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's so where does this then end us up with? I mean, in terms of the next few weeks, do we know how the council's leaning, what the sentiment is, or is there going to be a division between the council and the mayor? Did the president of the council get hoodwinked on it? I mean, what? What I mean, I hate to say that word.
Certainly the president of the council is new, was not a part of this long-term process. The majority of the people that were on the council before this new leadership were in full agreement with moving ahead. And things have gone sideways. So I don't know what they're going to do.
Now, you've also filed a federal lawsuit against Macomb County for how the county council and school board is chosen. It's 5 districts plus 2 at-large seats. You note, for example, that African Americans make about 30% of the county's population. School system about 60% of students are students of color. Where's that at this point?
So the lawsuit's been filed. And in the meantime, there have been talks and agreement with the county. They've kind of come along in certain areas saying, okay, yeah, we're willing to do some things. I cannot give specifics on that because I don't actually have that in front of me, and I'm not sure how all of that works. So I'm not an attorney.
All right.
But I know there's been big pushback from the school board in this regard, heavy pushback. So the whole foundation of this is representation, right? Acknowledgement and fairness in who is being seen. The only reason why we have even one person of color on these spaces now is because there was a lawsuit.
Right.
People try to do things the regular way, and sometimes that's just not enough. In relation to the what's on the county council, I had a conversation with some folk who were saying, well, I think, that's this at-large thing is good, and gives certain people an opportunity. And I said, but who has worked to champion that space for a person of color? Not even just Black, anybody. Nobody. People don't see who's missing. They don't notice that it still, for some people, it's absolutely ridiculous just to have all one race of people and one other person. And then when you don't see comprehensively from that group a true acknowledgement of all cultures and ethnicities, then you see there needs to be room for improvement. So, changing this space to place it in, ridding the at-large system. Because even when I even think about when I ran for office, I thought I said, there's not a chance in hell I'm going to be able to run at large, because I'm going to be going against somebody who's like some well-known, historically foundational white family here with all this money or whatever. And that group is going to be the ones who I have to go against. And then the funding and all of that. has not seemed very accessible or feasible. And so we are just looking to open that up so that it's more realistic. And certainly one of the biggest concerns, Don, is what's happening in the schools. You know, there's a lot, but certainly, following up on that Associated Press, article about, the kids being arrested, handcuffed, no longer arrested,
Right.
handcuffed. For the school board to not have a problem or not, say, oh, well, this is just kind of what needs to go on. The ramifications, the trauma that's being instilled in these children, and that still continues to be disproportionately Black kids. We don't make up, you just said the numbers, we don't make up every space, but we are the ones that are always the ones targeted. And what does that do to children long term? So there needs to be somebody who's looking out for others and not just people who look like them.
Let me ask you this, in terms, by the way, of what you want. I mean, is it just a matter of eliminating, or perhaps, for instance, the at-large, or is there an issue also of gerrymandering of the individual districts themselves?
Yes and yes. Yeah. It's you know what? To me, this is something long overdue. I think that for far too long, things have looked a certain way, and people just think that's just how it's supposed to be. But people don't really stop and go, does this make sense? Is this really working? Is this really inclusive? Is this really benefiting the community at large? Are all stakeholders really getting a fair say? The district makeups and the redlining are just, it makes you feel dyslexic. It's not working. And, we want to, what's the word? We just want to make it more fair. It's not going to be this thing of, you know what, there's another Black person on the council and they just only care about Black people. No. We're not in that position where we can just only be about us, because there's not enough for us to just be about us. We're about everybody. All we're saying is, if everything was fair and open, if there was equity and inclusion in all these spaces, and not only, just circling back to the beginning of our conversation, the leadership, the lack thereof, of diversity, even in the city of Salisbury, in the county, where is the diversity? Where is this organic move to make sure that that everyone has a fair opportunity to excel? If you're currently an employee, that someday you could be in management, that this is a priority. It's not. It is not. If we put up a chart right now and just showed all the faces of who's in charge in all these different areas, it wouldn't look right. It wouldn't look like America. So obviously there's a disconnect. It's not being prioritized. And, with the new mayor, I'm giving him some time. And that's in that regard about putting people in leadership. I'm giving him time because he just got there. But before, there was plenty of time to get people in. And that hasn't happened.
We've been speaking with Monica Brooks. She's president of the Wicomico County branch of the NAACP. Appreciate you stopping by and chatting with us.
Of course. Always a pleasure, Don. Thank you.
You're listening to Delmarva Today. This is Don Rush.
Delmarva Today with Don Rush.